Adab. Uh, First of all, I would like to thank US India Policy Institute for funding this project, which was conducted by us, all three of us. And as Razibhai said, that what we are going to do is basically to share, the way we have written the report. We would like to present that in that manner, so that a comprehensive picture of the idea of Muslim marginalization and backwardness can be presented in its entirety. Uh, we are also grateful to CPDD Hyderabad and especially Amir Lapanta. CPDD published the report and they have circulated it. The report is freely available online, soft copy. So those of you who are interested in reading the report, please visit US India Policy Institute website and you can download it from there. The PDF is already there. We have also made a series of short videos explaining different chapters and different aspects of this report. So you can also, and these videos are basically in Hindi and English. So and trying to mix difficult technical terms in such a language that people can understand and try to make sense of what is happening with Muslims in India. So this is the background of the report. What I'm going to do is basically to provide a context in which this question became important for all three of us. I'll read out a part of the report, and then I will invite my colleague, Dr. Nazima Parveen, uh, and Dr. Sanjeer Alam to elaborate on the chapters which they have written. One clarification is important here. Both Nazima Parveen and Sanjeer Alam, they are actually the expert in the field of public policy and especially the question of affirmative action. For me, I am a political scientist by training, and I am interested in Muslim issues. So this report, the substance of the report, is actually produced by both of these of my colleagues. So what I will try to do here in my 10 minutes, which I have allotted for myself, to give you a brief background and the main questions which the report has highlighted, and then Nazima will provide you what really has changed in terms of policy after 2014. And then finally, Sanjeev Bhai will take us to two important aspects of Muslim public life. One is education and other one is employment. And Sanjeev Bhai will then finally try to summarize the main findings and the main arguments which the report has tried to make. So first of all, I will briefly read the thing and then try to explain it, because it is always better to keep track of time. Muslim backwardness emerged as one of the important reference points for policy discussion or community empowerment in the early 2000s. In 2006, Ministry of Minority Affairs was created. The cabinet, and remember that that was the time when UPA was in power. The cabinet approved the Prime Minister's 15-point program for minorities in June 2006 for initiating a series of minority-centric policies and schemes. And it is very important to remember that before 2000s, the question of Muslim marginalization was not an official concern in technical terms. So we have to be very clear about the change scenario in which the question of Muslim marginalization became a policy issue. The Sachar Commission and Rangnath Mishra Commission were formed around the same time. Sachar Commission used the official data to evaluate socioeconomic and educational status of Muslims in India. The Mishra Commission, on the other hand, examined the criteria for identification of socially and economically backward sections among religious and linguistic minorities and made serious recommendations for their welfare. These official reports strongly advocated that Muslims must be treated as a marginalized community. Several policy initiatives were introduced by the government for socio-economic upliftment of Muslim community in course of time. The government of India, again UPA government, constituted the post-Sachar Evaluation Committee to evaluate the process of implementation of Sachar Commission report that came out in 2007, and the Prime Minister's new 15-point program in 2013. This committee was called Kundu Committee, and it submitted its report in 2014. Now, after 2014, and this is something which most of the people missed, the BJP-led NDA government adopted a different approach. The government introduced Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas as an objective for social inclusion of all groups and communities, including Muslims. The government also initiated significant changes in the policy framework and restructured existing programs and schemes led by the Ministry of Minority Affairs. We have to remember that Modi government did not dissolve Ministry of Minority Affairs. Instead, it is actually restructured. So, these significant policy changes have not been given adequate attention in academic discussions and socioeconomic disadvantages facing Muslims. There is a popular and in a way rigid mode to address the question of Muslim exclusion. The Sachar Commission report is presented to us as an extraordinary discovery to show the plight of Muslims in post-colonial India. The failure of the respective government to implement the recommendation of the report is also highlighted. This is standard position on Sachar Commission report in general and Muslim marginalization in particular almost ignores the fact that Sachar Commission report was an outcome of a particular policy discourse which created the possibility to accommodate Muslim identity as a legitimate category for affirmative action. The post-2014 policy framework is actually very different. It is more interested in developing a different approach. This framework does not view Muslim empowerment as an exclusive concern. This makes the question of Muslim backwardness a bit tricky. The changing official position on affirmative action framework, especially with regard to Muslim communities in India, cannot be understood without systematically analyzing the emerging form of the state, its policy priorities, and its vision of welfareism. The present study is actually a modest attempt in this regard. It tries to situate Muslim backwardness in a wider context to find out new avenues for meaningful social action. So this is the background in which we decided to actually revisit the question of affirmative action for Muslims in India. Uh, it was actually a year-long project, and we had 5 objectives for this report. First was to examine the nature of state and its official perspective on social welfare. Second was to study the contemporary policy framework and its implication for Muslims. This is something which Nazima is going to discuss today. To collect and analyze data, that was the third objective. To examine the educational and economic status of Muslim community in post such a scenario. This is something which Professor Alam is going to do. And finally, to collect and analyze Muslim perceptions, expectations, aspirations, and anxieties in relation to their socio-economic backwardness and marginalization. And we have tried to develop an action plan on the basis of the findings of our report. So these were the basic objective of the report. These 5 elements have their own analytical significance. The study of state perspective introduces us to guiding philosophy and or the vision of the state that determines the expected role and function of public institutions. The official approach towards social inclusion and marginalization draw its inspiration as well as legitimacy from the set of values which are established by the state as administrative directives. The available resources, the constitutional framework, constitutional principles, legal framework, institutional apparatus, and ongoing schemes and policies are also reinterpreted to make the official philosophy of the state acceptable and justifiable. Our study examines the changing official perspective of the state in post-UPA period. More specifically, we look at the gradual unfolding of what we may call the charitable state in the Indian context. So I can come back to the question of charitable state in the question and answer session. But basically, it is a state where the affirmative action is given to you, not as right, but as charity. And all the schemes, all the ration schemes, Ujjwala Yojana and things like that are the reflection of the changed nature of the state. The policy framework is the second thematic concern for this exploration. there can be two ways to look at the public policy. In the more conventional manner, the public policy is seen as a scientific problem-solving tool, which is expected to deal with the identified problem areas in the more practical sense. This view emphasizes more on the implementation and the delivery aspect. There is a little possibility for having critical analysis of the intellectual sources which determine the actual contours of public policy making. There is another and in a way more nuanced approach to study public policy. And this is what we call what is the problem presented to be, and that is called WPR model. This WPR model is actually a new tool to try to find out not merely what the policy says, but also try to unpack the ways in which what could be the outcome of the policy and how to evaluate public policy. And Nazima has used WPR model to study the public policy framework and in contemporary India, especially in post 2024 period. The status of Muslims is the third component of our study. We treat Structured Commission report as a context-driven intellectual resource for this purpose. The innovative methodology used by such a commission report to define Muslim backwardness is very important. And it is very important to note that we have tried to use the methodology to define backwardness by such a with slight modification in this report. So Sachar Commission report and followed by Kundu Commission report are basically the policy resources and the you know the theoretical, I would say, tools which we have used to define post UPA period idea of Muslim backwardness and marginalization. Uh, what was the method? And it is very important that, and I'm going to quote what such a commission said about Muslim marginalization. And I quote, it says, it is useful to distinguish between three types of overlapping issues that cut across the categories described above faced by Muslims in India. Issues that are common to all poor people, Muslims are largely poor. Issues that are common to all minorities, and Muslims are minorities. Issues that are very specific to Muslims. And these are not my word, but the such a commission report's methodological framework. Several concerns relating to employment and education specific to Muslim may fall in the first category. Similarly, some aspect of identity and security may be common across minorities, while some other may be specific to Muslim. It needs to be recognized that issues related to identity, security, and equity are inextricably linked in complex ways, unquote. So this is the framework which Satcher used, and we have tried to actually build upon this important point of intervention. The fourth component of our study is rather distinctive. We have tried to collect and analyze Muslim perception. By the way, Satcher did not use any sample survey to collect Muslim perceptions. So that is something which is unique in our report. We have used CSDS Lokniti data to understand what Muslim think about the changed policy and their attitude and their expectation towards these. So I can come back to these questions on this idea of Muslim. What do Muslims think about changed policy, and what are their expectation in the question answer session? Now the final part, which and then I'll stop, is about the methodology. So the study employ a carefully designed methodology to address the identified themes which we have just discussed. There are four components of this methodology. The first is an institutional analysis of the Indian state, and that's on the basis of that we call it a charitable state, not a welfare state. And the distinction is very important. So I'll come back to this when we have question and answer session. Number two part of our methodology is a careful assessment of existing policy framework using WPR method, which Nazima has done. The third component is collection, organization, and reorganization of official data, which Sanjeev Bhai has done. Analysis of empirical data generated through sample survey. This is something which I have done in the report. So this is the background of the report, and I think I should now stop, and I invite Nazima to discuss the idea of affirmative action and its placing in the contemporary policy discourse. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you very much for this, this event, for organizing this event and to talk about this very important policy report. So I think this is also very important because the contemporary policy discourse is something that uh, people are actually, no one is looking at because of the kind of hostile environment against Muslims and against minorities. So in this sense, I think that it's really, really important. And Hilal, as Hilal has said, that to look at the question of Muslim marginalization and Muslim, empowerment at this time. So what I would like to do is I would like to make a presentation here, and just give me 1 minute. And I will briefly talk about.
Nazma, can you put in the presentation mode to make it a little bigger? Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I'm just going to talk about the contemporary policy discourse and affirmative action for Muslims. And this is something, these are the main objectives of the discussion today. And so first of all, I would like to explain the nature of contemporary policy discourse. To make sense of the transformation of aspirational district program, this is the program which the government introduced for 5 years. I will talk about it. To locate Muslim concentrated district or areas in the framework of aspirational districts, and to explore the emerging vocabulary of affirmative action and a possible restructuring of the approach for social action for Muslim communities. So I'll briefly talk about the last point, and then Sanjeev Bhai will elaborate in more on this aspect. Um, Sorry, just give me 1 minute. So when we talk about the contemporary forms of affirmative action, I'll discuss here the principles and sources. Now, what is important here is to just mention briefly that Hilal talked about the WBR model for policy analysis. So I have looked at 6 important aspects of it. One is the intellectual sources, what the intellectual sources the government is using to interpret, reinterpret, or initiate new schemes in the contemporary policy discourse. Second is the concepts and categorizations used to introduce this policy discourse. Third is the imaginations of the target group, how the target group in general is imagined in that sense in this policy discourse. The translation of these concepts and categories in schemes and in different schemes and programs. Uh, and then I have also looked at the administrative mechanisms employed for the implementation of these schemes and programs. And finally, the possible outcome that has been envisaged under this emerging policy discourse. So I have looked at these 5 different policy papers or policy documents that have been provided by the Niti Aayog. Principle that the Niti Aayog is following, and this is something which is very popular, and we all know about it. We have heard about it. That is Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas, meaning trust, and Sabka Prayas, meaning efforts. So basically, the government is talking about responsive citizen, and that would actually eventually lead to the kind of comprehensive development and development for all. So I have looked at first of all, the perspective paper, Bharati Model of Inclusive Development. Sabka Saath, this is the title, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas, Sabka Prayas. And this is written by Arvind Virmani, the ideologue of Niti Aayog. Second is the aspirational district. This is the other document, Unlocking Potentials. Third is the India, the 3-year action agenda that the government used for 2017-18 and 2019-20. Best practices in social sector, Compodium, which has been written by UNDP and Niti Aayog, and they have identified 75 sustainable development goals. And finally, aspirational district program and appraisal, which is done by the UNDP. So these are the few papers and documents that I have looked at. And I've also looked at the annual report of the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment and Ministry of Minority Affairs. Now, if we talk about the Bharati model of inclusive development, this is something which is the Niti Aayog's new policy framework. So it talks about, according to this policy paper, inclusive development means sustained, fast. I'm not able to read because of the window here. Okay. Yeah. Sustain fast inclusive growth, where inclusive stands for the for all-round development of the society and empowerment of every citizen to develop own capabilities and competence through application of mind and effort. So this is the basic crux of the policy paper. Now, what it means when we talk about Bharti model of inclusive development, it means it has three pillars or three features. Market economics, which means Indic market economy. This is the new concept that the Ayog has introduced, which means is the opposite of the earlier communist socialist command and control approach of economy. Basically, it's more about privatization. Second is the empowerment, which means concept of Bhartiya welfare state. So I'll elaborate it in the next slide. It means that the Niti Aayog is claiming that there is in India, this is an Indian competitor to the European welfare state. I mean, to oppose to that. Hence, empowerment of the last person is the motto, basically. And third is the pragmatism. So by pragmatism, it means that the government is focusing more on the practice rather than theory. To be brief about it. So in terms of market economics, the policy paper says that privatization for economic growth and productive environment. So basically what the government is saying that privatization is a key for development and growth. Second, the government says that it will focus more minimum government and maximum governance, meaning that it will focus more on the implementation of schemes and programs with the private sector. And then the government is also talking about the public-private partnership or to work collectively on areas that that the government think that because government look at the market economy or the private sector as growth generator and employment generator. So this is the new idea that is. So when we talk about new liberal state, it has been there. New liberal policy has been there since the 90s. But this is the first that kind of systematic effort, systematic and more, more, what should I say, more explicit effort to actually define the new state in that sense. Now, what is more important is the concept of Antodaya welfareism. Now, Antodaya welfareism means, so this is something which is actually based on, it means to deal with multi-dimensional poverty, a broad range of basic needs like roti, kapda, or makan. Then it talks about enhancing individual capacities and entrepreneurship. It also talks about private initiative through direct transfer to recipients and indirect subsidies through service providers or private initiative in that sense. And pragmatism, as I said, that it talks more about the implementation of policy, how the policy has been implemented, and gives more importance to the implementation than theory or ideology. So in this sense, I think it will be better if I talk about this, that how market economy in that sense, Indic market economy means according to this policy paper. So according to this model, the government is responsible to enable and facilitate private sector through attractive and conducive policy and institutional environment for private entrepreneurs. According to the government's responsibility is to ensure equal opportunity for all, fill gaps, and address issues which private sector is unable or unwilling to to do, like public goods provision and financing, rationing and things like that. Build and regulate infrastructure for economy and citizens. Economic reforms to promote private competition and limit public control over resources. And dismantle policy created monopolies and to regulate natural monopolies. So basically, the government's responsibility is to provide infrastructure for the private stakeholders and private players. Now, in terms of the corporate, the responsibility of the private stakeholders is to, because they are seen as economic growth and generator. So their responsibility is to look at economic growth and generate employment, raise capital, build enterprise, and compete. Private social initiative to look at the to provide that kind of support, to provide humane personal touch where government is ineffective or indifferent in providing basic services to the less advantaged members of society. So this is something that the government is envisaging at the moment, according to the new policy discourse. Now, what is important here is the Bharatiya approach to empowerment, which is Antodaya welfareism. This is defined as Antodaya welfareism. And Antodaya welfareism is based on Deen Dayal Upadhyay's concept of integral humanism, according to the policy paper. This is an indigenous socio-economic viewpoint based on Bharatiya cultural values, which is focused on overall development of human beings. Antodaya means to ensure the rise and development of the last person in society. So this is the intellectual sources that the government is using at the moment. It follows the Gandhian philosophy of the well-being of the last person. So this is according to the policy paper. The Bharatiya approach to social welfare is, according to the policy paper, is a combination of welfarist and humanist approach. By humanist approach, it says that it emphasizes personal growth and self-actualization, focusing on the individual's unique qualities and potential. Whereas the welfare approach focuses on promoting the well-being and quality of life for individuals and communities through social policies and support system. So basically what they are saying is, what the policy paper is saying is that rather than only looking at the socio-economic development, we will also look at the area based, or in terms of improving the conditions. The government will also look at the skills development of the citizens, and this is something which is very much there in the public discourse. The way government has been promoting all the different programs, skill development program, Make in India, local to global, and things like that. So those are the kind of approaches that has been used. Now, Bharatiya approach to affirmative action, according to the policy paper, it means equality of opportunity to increase human capacity and entrepreneurship to fulfill a broad range of basic needs. The second is the agenda of inclusion and empowerment of disadvantaged areas. So rather than focusing on a group-based approach, which was the case earlier, here the government is emphasizing on areas, or in that sense. So the third is to empower people in every group, like ethnic, caste, religious, tribal, and give them on equal opportunity to fulfill their personal interests and ambitions. Now, rather than looking at the or talking about group specific marginalization and policies or schemes, the government is saying that we will look at this, so we will treat every citizen equally in that sense. It also talks about the celebration of all occupation and achievements, including sports, formal, informal, art, craft, social services, work, yoga, Ayurveda, technology, and everything. It also talks about aspirations extended from local to global. I'll move on to this now. On the basis of this, what the government is talking about, and this is one of the policy initiative which was initiated it's called the Transformation of Aspirational District Program. It was launched in January 2018 for 5 years, 2018 to 22. And it aimed to focus on district level policy intervention in each state and UT. Now, according to the policy paper and the document on the aspirational district program, the program and the government's approach or strategy is actually to so it has introduced new vocabulary and new concepts and categories. So from backward districts to aspirational districts, rather than talking about the identified districts or areas as backward or marginalized, the government is using a different vocabulary, which is aspirational districts. Now, just to give you a background, so the backward districts are something which has been, this space-centric approach has been there since the 1980s. I will talk about it later, but to give you a background, earlier these districts were called backward districts. Now these are called aspirational districts. So the other approach that the government is using is from region to state, rather than rather than taking region as a unit of development or analysis. It's actually region or state. It's actually using district as a unit of analysis, or unit of analysis and unit of development programs, and unit of even the monitoring of the schemes and programs. Um, Now, there is also a shift from one size fits all approach to policy development to a context oriented approach. This is according to the policy paper. To work on the identified 5 sectors in different states. I will talk about it in a minute. And then from classic top-down approach to decision making or implementation to efficient and effective involvement of the third tier of government. So this is the, according to the government, rather than using the top-down approach, now we are using a district-based or block and village panchayat-based approach to make all the schemes and programs, tailor-made schemes and programs. Transform policy initiative into a mass movement by keeping citizens' participation through district governance at the center of the program. So basically, this is something which is also very clear. Though the government has been using a lot of funds in the publicity and everything, but the approach behind this or the strategy behind this, according to the policy paper, is actually to transform policy initiative into a mass movement, so that every citizen become a part of it. So here the talk about the responsive citizen and the charitable state. The IOG argues that keeping citizen at the center of any program, involving them at every stage of development, is a must for a democracy or democratic development. Now, in terms of affirmative action, there are certain key objectives of the program. Identification and transformation of districts in different states which are lagging behind in Human Development Index. Tackle the interstate and inter-district disparities in Human Development Index through a focused approach. Address the problem of patch-type development. This is the government's argument, which is major barrier in the inclusive growth, inclusive social and economic growth in India. Fourthly, it talks about inclusive and sustainable growth through a focused district level sector based approach with a positive intervention of the state and district level administration. Then the other feature is they facilitate the growth of the entire district. So rather than again having a group centering approach, the government is focusing on the entire district rather than any single group of population. So this is a motto is mirrored in the government's principle of leave no one behind. This is a new concept that the government has used in the policy document and the other papers as well, which is the central and transformative promise of the 2030 agenda of a sustainable development program. Now, the transform policy discourse into a mass movement, this is something which I have already discussed. What is an important feature of another important feature of this transformation of administrative district program, aspirational district program, was the collaborative and competitive action. So center, state and district. So this is something that the government is talking about in terms of the implementation of the policies or programs from and again from having a top down approach to the bottom up approach, kind of that kind of philosophy. The government is talking about 3 things. One is convergence, which means the convergence of different schemes that are already up and running at the level of the state and the schemes that have been initiated by the center. So there should be a convergence. That the government is saying that we will converge these schemes rather than having many schemes running in different areas. So there should be a convergence approach, so which should be based on the context of a particular district or of a particular state. So there should be a convergence of schemes. Secondly, the government is talking about collaboration. So keeping the federation and federal structure in mind, the government is talking about collaboration. There should be collaboration between center, state, and district block, so that whenever there is a scheme is converged or introduced, it can be implemented to the district level, because the focus is the district. And third is the competition. So the government is talking about competition between aspirational districts. That the basically the idea behind it is that the citizens should take initiative to come forward and to take benefit of these schemes and become a part of the development policy, of the development and growth, so that there is competition, positive competition between different aspirational districts. Uh, Now, what is an aspirational district in this sense? Districts that have been identified for a focused and context-specific development program. These districts are taken as concentrated special units for a focus intervention that I have talked about. Now, the other important aspect is this: the selected 115 districts are based on UNDP's 2016 Human Development Index. So the government is using 49 indicators across 5 sectors that have been identified. And the 5 sectors that have been identified to work on in each district is health and nutrition, education, agriculture and water resources, financial inclusion, and skill development, and finally basic infrastructure. So these are the 5 sectors that the government is actually focusing. And in all these 5 sectors, a different weightage has been given to different sectors, like health and nutrition has been, and education has been given 30% of weightage. So there are different, many indicators that have been used to to ensure that the development uh, is reaching to all the citizens according to the paper. Now, aspirations of minorities, when we talk about minority concentrated districts or localities. So basically what we are talking about here uh, is that because government is using a space-centric approach, so how should we talk about the minority concentrated districts? Now, what is important here is that no specific or direct connection between the aspirational district program and the action plan for minority communities has been made so far, made directly in that sense. Secondly, the action plan for 3 years prepared by the Niti Aayog incorporates the 15-point program of Prime Minister of Manmohan Singh government, and emphasizes the need of convergence of central government schemes as well as the schemes initiated by the Ministry of Minority Affairs, the state governments, departments for minority concentrated district, minority dominated localities. So it's not directly talking about the minorities or group centric approach, but the framework that has already been there has been incorporated into the aspirational district program. So it says that the target and outlays of the 15-point program should be disaggregated to the level of the natural settlement, helmet, what to ensure that schemes are reaching the targeted beneficiaries and producing the intended outcome. This should also become the basis for reporting achievements as well. So so these are the different sources that were used for the identification of these aspirational districts. This is the selection criteria in terms of like poverty, health and nutrition, education and infrastructure. Composite index was used. So these were the criteria that were used. The selection process: 35 districts were identified by the Home Ministry, 55 were identified by the central ministries, and rest 25 were identified by the Niti Aayog. Now, this is a kind of method that I have developed because I have looked at all the aspirational districts, and then I looked at to look at the Muslim concentrated localities. So I reviewed the list of the aspirational district program and matched it with the the population, region based population in each of the districts. So what I found is the total number of, there are 115 total number of districts, which are 112 now, because West Bengal did not become a part of it. I mean, during the program. Then there were 14 states with Muslim population, because northeastern states or other states have a very does not have a significant Muslim population. So what we identified was the 68 districts which were a part of the aspirational district program. Now, these were the tables, and just to show, I'm not going to discuss it here because there is no time. So this is how different states the different districts have been identified, and the percentage of Muslim population is there in the list. So these are the different tables that we used. Now, when we talk about Muslim concentrated districts, what I found is that there are 16 states with Muslim population. Only 13 states have districts with Muslim population above 10%. And some of these states like Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Jharkhand, Assam, Jammu and Kashmir, West Bengal and Haryana have a significant number of districts with Muslim population. In total, there are 68 aspirational districts which have more than 10% of Muslim population. In most of these 68 districts, the Muslim population is in a minority except for a few, because in some of them there is a significant Muslim population. So most of the districts have only 10 to 30% of Muslim population, except for a few where Muslims form a significant minority, like in Bihar and Jharkhand and Assam, Jammu and Kashmir, and these areas. And there are only 7 districts where Muslims are the dominant majority, with more than 55% of population. As I said, Assam and Jammu and Kashmir and other areas. Now, if we look at the centric approach, so I mentioned that there has been the space-centric approach has been there from the beginning. So if we talk about it in the this table explains that in 1987, Gopal Singh Committee report actually made a recommendation for religion-based welfare schemes. And then following that, later on, minority concentrated districts were introduced. So there were 90 districts were identified for this kind of concentrated approach. Then in 2007 and 8, Prime Minister's 15-point program, as Hilal also discussed, it was introduced. And one of the most important programs, which is the multi-sectoral development program, was also introduced. And for that, the implementation of this program, then minority concentrated districts and minority concentrated areas were identified. In 2013, it was restructured. The Prime Minister program was restructured, and the multi-sectoral development program was also restructured. And with that restructuring, because district was found as a much larger area, so it was MCDs were subdivided into minority concentration blocks, minority concentration towns, and clusters of minority concentration villages. So this is something that happened in 2013-14. Now in 2014-18, MSDP was renamed as Pradhan Mantri Jan Vikas Karyakram, and the aspirational district program was also introduced in 2018 and 22. Now, what we can see now, the kind of decentralization happening. Earlier, in the beginning, there was only 90 districts which were identified. Now we can see that there are more than around 710 minority concentrated blocks which have been identified in 155 MCDs. So this is something that is a biggest shift. Now, in terms of if we talk about the change that has happened, I'm not able to read it here. Just a second. Okay. So, in terms of change, in order to summarize what I have discussed in this presentation, so but we can see the change that has happened. Unit of development analysis has changed from state or region to district. So there is a focus on district level intervention. Secondly, decision and implementation in terms of decision and implementation regarding the development policy. So there is a top-down approach to district or block level engagement is emphasized. So there is a decentralized action plan according to the government's report. Policy discourse in terms of, earlier policy discourse was seen as official matter or something which is fixed. Now the government is talking about to transforming it into a mass movement, so that there could be inclusive engagement from every citizen. Now, in terms of policy approach as well, rather than having a one-size-fit-all kind of planning centric, that the government has been very critical, and we know that it has been there in the newspaper and all the news report as well, that their government has been very critical of the planning centric approach. So now, and one of the criticism was that they cannot be one size fit all kind of approach. So it should be context oriented approach. So Muslim diversity reference point here for us, Muslim diversity also become a reference point. So these are the green boxes here are about the action agenda or the recommendations that actually we have made on the basis of these changes or transformations that have taken place. Now, in terms of so these are some identified goals as well, as I talked about initially. So UNDP, because it was a program which finished in 2023, 22. So UNDP and NITI Aayog have identified some best practices in social sector based on the evaluation of the aspirational districts and the schemes that were introduced there and implemented there. So 75 sustainable development goals have been identified. It highlights 75 best policies and practices in social sector that are delivering the goals for people and communities. The UNDP supported NITI Aayog in reviewing and compiling these 75 best practices from over 200 innovative initiatives in different areas. Now, just a second. So what is the government policy is doing at the moment, or according to the policy discourse that has evolved, is actually universalizing welfareism. And in terms of universalizing welfareism, our purpose is here. Here is actually to look at the implications for Muslim communities. Now, following the new Prime Minister's program, Prime Minister 15-point program, the schemes under the were I'm not able to read because of the window here. Were redefined from the perspective of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, as I have discussed earlier. It means the partial removal of the filter of minority-based parameters. So the minority concentrated district has been, used as a basic concept, but the government is actually not using that kind of terminology in the development programs. So Ministry of Minority Affairs, according to the Ministry of Minority Affairs, projects under the scheme are sanctioned for the welfare of minorities, but they do not exclude other population living in the catchment area. So this is what the government means by it, by the universalization of welfareism. Thus, the projects sanctioned under community are actually community assets, and according to the Minority Commission, they are community assets, and all the people living in the catchment area can utilize the assets such as the schools, college, hospitals, Anganwadi centers, skill centers, sports facilities, etc. So, what we have seen here is this space-centric approach for identifying development goals, skill requirement, infrastructure needs, and sector-based development goals in Muslim-concentrated areas. This is something that we have identified. These are our findings. And sectoral approach focus on both living conditions and capacity building of Muslim communities living in a geographical area. And most importantly, the private sector, because the private sector is a bigger player. So we need to look at the corporate social responsibility as well. This is something which Sanjay Bhai is going to talk about more in detail. So this is the emerging what I have discussed here is the emerging policy discourse, the shifts that have taken place, and the kind of schemes and how this policy discourse, or with the the intellectual sources that the government is using, how the already running up and running schemes have been modified, uh, you know, modified and reinterpreted or redesigned to fit what the government is arguing for. So this is something that I just wanted to discuss. Thank you very much. Now I would like Sanjeev Bhai to take it ahead.
अभी संजय साहब, डॉक्टर संजीर आलम, क्या हुआ?
Yeah.
जी,
So I need to share my PPT. Is it visible?
yeah. Can you put in the presentation mode a little
Yes.
bigger?
Yeah. Hmm. Just seconds.
Just at the right bottom, you click it.
On the bottom right पे जो स्लाइडर बार है उसके लेफ्ट वाला जो आइकन है, दैट्स प्रेजेंटेशन मोड. वो जो 15.6 जहाँ नीचे लिखा है आपका कॉर्नर पे नंबर, उसके नीचे जो आइकन है,
The one with the cup shape.
yeah,
All
at the
the
very
way
bottom.
down. No. Go down. Go to the bottom tray, please. And the right one.
जी
Keep
जी,
going.
right one, right
One more, one more. One more. One more. No. The next one. All the way to the right.
एकदम राइट में जो आप है.
Yes. No. Okay, again. The cup shape. Yeah, this one. Thank you.
So thank you, Razuddin Bhai, for organizing this event. My colleagues have beautifully laid out the shifting political context and changing paradigms of welfareism and development. Here I will do two things. The first is that I will discuss how Muslims are placed in two crucial sectors of human development as well as life chances. And then I will discuss whether, what are the possible, policy approaches that could be undertaken to address relative backwardness of Muslims. So I will start with educational participation of Muslims. As you can see in the table, but before I, tell you about what figures, show in this table, I have, compared Muslims' educational participation with a number of, other social groups. So here STs are scheduled tribes, SCs are scheduled castes, HOBCs, stand for Hindu, other backward classes, and HFCs, stand for Hindu forward caste or classes. So in this table, we can look at that since 2000, educational participation rates of Muslim children have improved along with the generalized increase in educational participation. Yet, they have the lowest rate of educational participation across age groups and levels. The gap between Muslims and others widens with increasing levels of education. So as we move from lower level of education to higher education, the gap between Muslims and other socio-religious groups, increase. At the level of higher education, which is, very crucial in today's context, Muslim children are only half as likely to participate as their peers from Hindu forward caste. Thus, we can see that the social pattern of educational participation remains the same as observed by the Sachar Committee report a decade ago. So now look at the gender dimension of educational participation. We can see that educational participation rates for Muslim boys and girls are the lowest of all, even lower than SCs, STs by 10 percentage points. The pattern, holds up for the upper age cohort, that is 18 to 25 years, with Muslim boys and girls having lower educational participation rate than SC and ST boys and girls. Here is the geographical dimension of educational participation among different socio-religious communities. So we can see that in overall terms, educational participation for urban locations are significantly higher than for rural areas. It is quite natural because urban areas have greater density of a higher density of educational institutions as compared to the rural areas. Now, as for Muslims, their educational participation rate is lower than average and the lowest of all socio-religious groups across age groups and geographical locations. So we can see that whether it is rural area or urban center, Muslims are lagging behind others all across. We have analyzed participation of Muslims in educational opportunities in terms of state also, because we know that in India, states are at different stages of socioeconomic development. So what I have done is I have classified the major states of India into two classes. One is the low participation states and the other is high participation states. So we can see it is quite clear in the table that in low participation states such as Assam, Bihar, Jharkhand, we can see that the Hindu-Muslim disparity or the disparity between Muslims and HFCs are quite large. But in high participation states such as Maharashtra, Karnataka, Kerala, Telangana, the disparities between Muslims and other socio-religious groups, especially the Hindu forward caste, are quite low, small. That was for the age group 14 to 17 years. It means that those children were participating in, upper reaches of school. Now let's look at what happens for those who are in the age group of 18 to 25 years, and those who are those who belong to this age cohort and participating in educational opportunities. That means that they are participating in higher education. So we can again see the similar pattern that in the states of opportunity deficits, Muslims are quite way behind other socio-religious groups. But the situation is a little better off in the high participation states such as Maharashtra, Karnataka, Kerala and Telangana, but Kerala seems to be an exceptional case. It is also a paradoxical case, I would say, that the disparity between Muslims and Hindu forward caste is larger than other states in this region, that is high participation region. Now let's look at the intergenerational change in educational attainment. We can see that there has been perceptible intergenerational change in educational attainment across socio-religious groups. The second point that emerges from this table is that social gaps have shrunk considerably, and SCs and STs and HOBCs appear to have gained much more than Muslims, especially in higher education. So it seems that while the gap between Muslims and other socio-religious groups have been, rapidly shrinking at the lower levels of education, but higher education seems to be a sticky floor where the gap is shrinking, but at snail's pace. Yeah. So that was about the educational disparity in quantitative terms. But in today's context, what is more important is how different social groups stand in terms of qualitative terms of education. So one aspect of qualitative aspects of education is access to private institutions. So as we know that private schooling has risen in prominence in recent decades because of declining quality of learning in state-run schools. But the social composition of private schools is highly skewed in favor of Hindu forward caste. Students, so we can see that students from HFC households are far more likely than others to attend private schools. While Muslim students are also slightly more likely to attend private schools as compared to SCs and STs, but they still, lag way behind Hindu forward caste. The other dimension of qualitative aspect of educational inequality is course taking or a selection of field of study. So we can see here in this table that there are considerable social disparities in course taking. Although most students opt for general courses such as arts, humanities, commerce, and sciences, students from Hindu forward class households are more likely to choose technical professional courses, while Muslim students are slightly more likely to choose technical professional courses. They are nevertheless way behind HFCs or Hindu forward classes. Now let us turn to wealth status and labor market outcomes for Muslims. So in this table, you can see the average household monthly consumer expenditure. So this is quite obvious that the average monthly consumer expenditure among the Hindu forward class households is more than 10,000. And this is 11,403 rupees. As against this, the average monthly household consumer expenditure for Muslims is 8,861. So, so if we look at this table quite closely, then you will see that Muslims are, slightly better off scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, and they are quite close to Hindu other backward classes, but they have much lower expenditure, which is the proxy of income than Hindu forward castes. Now let's look at the wealth index quintile. We can see that we can see significant disparities in wealth status compared with other socio-religious groups. The proportion of poor among HFCs is the lowest, and that of richest is the highest. As for Muslims, their distribution across wealth quintile is, quite flat. Muslims are better off as compared to scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, but their proportion in the highest quintile is just, half that of HFCs or Hindu forward caste. Now let's move on to quality of employment. So NSSO classifies employment into three types. One is regular salaried, the second is self-employed, and third is casual labor. Uh, for various reasons, regular salaried, jobs are seen as decent jobs. But other forms of employment, self-employment or casual labor, are the precarious forms of employment, given the income, given the nature of work they do, and the quantum of income they generate or earn from their, work. So in terms of employment outcomes, we can see that different SRGs are different socio-religious groups are differentially likely to be distributed in the employment structure. While HFCs dominate the regular salaried jobs, those of SCs and STs show a tendency of heaping at the lower end of the employment structure, which is casual worker. In terms of regular salaried jobs, Muslims are close to SCs as well as HOBCs or Hindu backward classes, but it is quite clear that they are quite way behind Hindu forward classes. Now the question is whether some changes have taken place in the context of restructuring of the economy as well as the labor market. So the figures are for two years, so 1999, 2000, and 2017 and 18. So it's almost 2 decades. So in the last 2 decades, we can see that disadvantaged groups have witnessed a certain degree of upward mobility as reflected in declining D values. The D values is, it has been calculated by using a dissimilarity index proposed by Duncan and Duncan. However, disadvantaged socio-religious groups' upward mobility in the employment structure has not been uniform. Between 2000 and 2018, most gains have been for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, as reflected in the sharpest decline in the D values. But Muslims seems to cut a sorry figure, as there has been negligible decline in the D value, which is Muslim versus HFCs. This suggests that recent changes in the economic opportunity structure has had little positive impact on Muslims. So now look at whether, so as we saw that there is a regional pattern in the participation of Muslims in various, sorts of opportunities. So we can see that, so we have classified the states into two regions. One is more advanced region, the second is less advanced region. So it seems that region of residence appears make a difference. All socio-religious groups in the more advanced region are more likely than their counterparts in the less advanced region to hold regular wage salaried job. However, regional differentials are more pronounced for Muslims than other disadvantaged groups, especially with regard to regular salaried employment. So access of Muslims to regular salaried employment is, much better than SC/STs or HOBCs or Hindu other backward classes in the more advanced region. As we know that access to, a regular salaried job is a function of, educational attainment. So there is a there is a strong correlation between level of education and access to a regular salaried employment. So, as has been argued by many labor market experts, that underrepresentation of disadvantaged groups in regular salaried employment is a result of relative lack of education among them. Of course, education enhances access to regular salaried employment for all socio-religious groups, but the data show that social gaps do not close. Muslims are least likely to convert their degrees into decent jobs, so which is regular salaried employment. Among those with secondary and above education, the proportion of self-employed is the highest among Muslims. So it suggests that many well-educated Muslims are compelled to get into self-employment rather than a regular salaried employment. So does technical credentials, make difference? The table shows that possessing technical credentials are critically important for access to decent jobs. Its positive impact can be observed for all socio-religious groups, but still we can see that considerable social gaps remain. Muslims with technical degrees are less likely than others to hold regular salaried jobs. So this is quite disturbing to note that even well-qualified, Muslims are not having access to regular salaried employment, despite the fact they have, essential qualifications. So the key points that emerges thus far are as follows. Educational participation rate among Muslims is still lower than that of SCs, STs. Muslims lag further behind as the stage of education goes off. The relative educational deficit among Muslims are greater in the low educational participation states than in high participation states. Compared with Hindu forward caste, a lower percentage of Muslims study in private schools and choose technical professional courses in higher education. The gap persists. We have here, I have not shown you the table, but I have carried out econometric analysis. So which shows that the gap persists even after controlling for family background differences, such as education of the head of the household and economic status thereof. More among Muslims are likely to be in precarious sorts of employment. Only a smaller fraction of workers among them earn a regular salary. While higher levels of schooling help Muslims get decent jobs, they do not seem to level the playing field in the job market. This lends credence to the perception that there exists, Muslim penalty in the job market. Now, I move on to the next part, which is the way forward. So here in this section, I will discuss some possible approaches to address relative educational economic backwardness of Muslims, as well as their backwardness in other spheres. So the first is the quota approach. As we know that India has the longest running and most comprehensive, social justice program. And at the center of the social justice program is a reservation of seats in educational institutions and public sector employment. So there are many who argue that Muslims should be covered under the protective shield of reservation as their objective position is no different from officially recognized backward classes. Without going into the genuineness of this argument, but I can see I can see two problems with this approach. If past experience is any guide, the reservation has been an overly emotive and divisive issue. Attempts of increasing the quantum of reservation have met with violent resistance and political backlash. The extension of reservation to Muslims would not only be opposed at the political and societal levels, the reactions would be even more violent than in the case of OBCs. In other words, pressing for reservation for the entire Muslim community in the current socio-political climate may further isolate the community from the wider society. Secondly, the opposition to the idea of reservation for the entire Muslim community is also likely to come from within the community itself, because there would be the conflict between, Pasmanda Muslims and Ashraf Muslims. In view of the above complexities, a pertinent question that arises: is there any scope under the existing legal constitutional framework and political conditions to maximize the benefits of reservation for eligible Muslims? In our view, there are a few possibilities with regard to increasing share of Muslims in the reservation net, which would be, list contentious. The first is to do proper identification of OBCs among Muslims and to put them under different subclassification based on the level of marginalization among them. The second is to secularize the category of SCs, that is, ex-untouchables among Muslims should be accorded the status of SCs. So as you may be aware of the fact that legally, there is a religious dimension to identification of scheduled castes. So legally, only Hindus, Sikhs, and Buddhist, can be scheduled caste, but members of the Muslim community and Christian communities cannot be identified as scheduled caste. So we are arguing in our report that this is not only arbitrary but also unconstitutional. So there is, so we can see that there are ways to, increase the share of Muslims in the, reservation program. The second, approach we suggest is geographic approach or spatial approach. The geographical approach is rather a process-oriented policy, instead of, outcome-based policy, as was the case with the reservation. It is this approach is most suited in the context where ethnicity-based deprivation is coterminous with backwardness of a region or an area. This approach implies undertaking of various schemes for the development of the backward region, leading to betterment of the local communities inhabiting the given region. A distinctive feature of this approach is that speciality masks both ethnicity and class as the basis of selection of beneficiaries. So how far this approach is going to benefit Muslims? So as we know that Muslims are widely dispersed across states. Over half the Muslims live in 5 states, which are Assam, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand, and West Bengal. And these are the states which have been experiencing developmental deficits for decades. So this means that part of Muslims' backwardness is also because of their concentration in these states. So logically, if efforts are made to raise the level of socioeconomic status of Muslims in the backward areas, or what is now labeled as aspirational districts, as mentioned by Nazima. By creating educational and economic opportunities, Muslims will also get benefited. While the geographic approach looks promising, its success, depends on how it gets implemented on the ground. It is possible that much of the benefit of a scheme is governed by advantaged groups in the backward areas because of the political and social capital that they have. There is also the question of unit of planning, whether the unit of planning should be district, block, or village. So earlier, under the MCD, earlier minority concentrated districts were, identified. But now, there has been a shift in that approach, and there are efforts to, identify minority concentrated villages. So past experiences have shown that districts as a unit of planning and investment under the MCD approach has not worked. So there is a need to go down the block or village level. But there are other problems as well. For example, there are, multiple layers of planning and approval of activities. There is, center, there is a state, there are, Panchayati Raj institutions which are involved in planning, monitoring, and implementing the schemes or programs. So this offers ample scope to the bureaucracy for delaying approval and implementing projects. So in other words, this approach to affirmative action, despite having huge potentials, may prove a damp squib unless these issues are taken care of. The third important approach that we suggest is the sectoral approach. So what does it mean? The sectoral, the sectoral approach, sorry, the sectoral approach involves identification of sectors for state intervention, which may largely benefit the disadvantaged or targeted groups. Like a special approach, the basis of selection of intended beneficiaries is not group based on ascriptive characteristics for its explicit aim is to build out the entire sector identified for government intervention. And this approach can be used to benefit individuals without making explicit references to their ethnic or religious identity. An ideal context in which the sectoral approach can be used to benefit disadvantaged groups is the one where the group in question displays higher concentration in the given sectors of economy. This approach, sounds great, as large number of Muslims are artisans and run home-based enterprises. There are certain enterprises or occupation in which Muslim workers are disproportionately engaged. These enterprises include, carpentry, butchery, weaving, it's lock making industry, brass making, carpet and perfume making, leather, and leather work. Many of these enterprises face the problem of, raw materials, financial capital, spatial segregation, lack of availability of appropriate modern technology, and exploitation by traders, and so on. The onset of globalization and liberalization, accompanied by unbridled powers of traders, has further worsened the condition of those implied in this occupation. So we believe that a conscious and proactive policy may be designed to address the problems of those occupations in which Muslims are disproportionately, if not exclusively, represented. So a policy package that provides for upskilling and modernizing small-scale enterprises by making capital available, upskilling manpower to use technology by providing training, putting in place a mechanism to do away with exploitation by traders, and so on, may help a large number of Muslims, and may have multiple positive effects on their lives. The other, measures that can be undertaken is to establish some equal opportunity or anti-discrimination structure. In multi-ethnic, multicultural societies such as India, the minority groups based on ethnicity, reason, religion, language, national origin, uh, and so on, tend to have feelings of being discriminated against by the state agencies as well as the wider society. They often attribute their deprivation as well as disadvantages to invidious discrimination practiced against them, uh, by the uh, bureaucracy as well as other state agencies. So, in order to address the problem of discrimination, actual or perceived, many democratic and multi-ethnic countries such as United States of America, Canada, United Kingdom, Brazil, South Africa, to name a few, have enacted anti-discrimination laws and created anti-discrimination or equal opportunity authorities. In India, almost all groups, big or small, forward or backward, perceive themselves as potential victims of illegitimate discrimination. However, such feelings are more pervasive among historically marginalized groups and religious minorities such as Muslims. So, whether or not a group is actually discriminated against, the feeling of a discriminatory or unfair treatment itself causes a lot of damage. In the past, there were attempts towards creating an equal opportunity commission, which was initiated by the UPA government as a follow-up to the recommendations of the Sachar Committee in 2005. 2006. The government appointed an the government appointed an expert committee group in 2008 to examine and determine the structure of an equal opportunity commission. But for certain reasons, the idea of having an equal opportunity commission could not take off. However, the idea can be revived given the growing perception among traditionally disadvantaged groups of discrimination in various spheres of social life. Other than these measures, we also, suggest that there is a need for engaging with the private sector. For example, we know that today educational landscape is dominated by, the private sector. And private educational institutions have come to mean, access to quality education. So we suggest that the private sector could be engaged in order to be able to ensure greater representation of Muslim children in the private educational institutions, whether it is at the elementary level or secondary level or at the level of higher education. Secondly, private, most now the private sector is becoming important in providing, decent employment or white collar employment. So private sectors may be urged to, hire well qualified Muslims in their firms. Because it is ultimately, in their interest, because research has shown that the social diversity in workplaces enhances efficiency. There could be other.
Sanjeev sir, I
Yes,
think we have been talking since almost 1 hour 37 minutes. That is too long.
Yeah,
So
no,
there won't be any
I
time
am
left.
done. I am done. I am done, and I just conclude here that
Please
uh, there are several ways of addressing relative backwardness of Muslims. The question that you would like to ask is, are there trade-offs between different approaches or measures? My answer would be no. All the measures could be taken simultaneously. I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Actually, I mean, it's such a nice data, so detailed data. If we should have a lot of questions, but unfortunately, because of the time constraint, we will not be able to entertain so much. So Dr. Rafat Hussain will have to choose a couple of questions to finish within 20 minutes or so. So unfortunately, coming Saturday, we will not have a Zoom session because of or perhaps Eid. And then we will resume on June 14. Rafat, please take over from here.
Thank you, Dr. Raziuddin. So thank you to all three speakers. Wonderful data, a lot of needs to be discussed if possible, but all three speakers, Dr. Hilal Ahmed, Dr. Nazma Parveen, and Dr. Sanjeer Alam. So there's a lot of work you guys have done and presented in a format. So there are two ways to ask a question or to engage in the discussion. One is to raise the digital hand, and the other option is to show your interest in the chat box. So let's see if there is any hand raise. Yes, there are two. Okay, so let's begin with the raised hand, Dr. Ayaz Ahmed, and then I will come back to the Umair Faris. Dr. Ayaz Ahmed.
Thank you for such a comprehensive presentation and preparation of this report. The entire team is worthy of congratulations, especially because the paradigm in the recommendation of Sanjeer Alam Saab's last presentation, the paradigm has completely transformed in terms of Ashraf minority rights approach to inclusion and affirmative action. This is, I think, a tectonic shift within the Ashraf space of minority rights in politics. Therefore, congratulations. However, the question of the political, to Dr. Hilal Ahmed, I would like to raise, the question of the political remains. You know, the recommendation that in the OBC list inclusion should take place, and in the SC list inclusion should take place, the communal bar should be removed. We know that OBC inclusion has already taken place. OBC Muslims are there in the OBC category. ST Muslims, tribals are there in the ST category, and the upper caste Ashraf Muslims are in the EWS category. So of the four categories, all Muslims are included in some form of affirmative action. However, in the absence of the political, the kind of politics which is needed to translate these policy recommendations into reality, in that absence, even in the existing inclusion is now under threat. We know that in West Bengal, Muslim OBCs who were also part of the central OBC, High Court excluded from its list. We know that almost all the Muslim OBCs in the OBC category were excluded. So therefore, my political question, which will then give some shape to the recommendation, is what kind of political approach do you recommend or envisage if it is going to be within the Muslim minority paradigm, as is very evident from the categorization of the Muslim as only Muslim. We have not put, the report has not put it in the ST, OBC or forward caste groups. If this is the report, then even whatever little inclusion is there in the form of OBC, that is going to be lost. If the question of the political is not addressed, unless Ashraf develops some confidence to acquire political position, chief minister, state ministry, or
Dr.
government.
Ayaz Ahmed, please. Dr.
Yes,
Ayaz Ahmed,
so,
ask the pointed question, please.
So in the absence of the political, do you think this report is going to have any effect whatsoever, rather than bulky paperwork?
Thank you. So let me add another question in it's a similar nature, and it's from Tariq Farooqi. So he says that a lot of data, great analysis. Now, what is the best path forward? What will be most effective path forward, and also be doable in the present circumstances? So it's a related question. So who's going to address? Please go ahead. Either of 3%, Dr. Hilal Ahmed, or Nazma Parveen, or Sanjeer Alam. Please go ahead.
I think it would be better if we collect a few more questions and then we all three respond.
So there are not too many right now. So you please address these two questions which are similar in nature. What is the political path forward under the given circumstances?
I think, what we have done in this work. First of all, that we have tried to revisit the question which nobody was talking about. So that is, I think, it in itself is a political move. That no one was talking about what was happening with affirmative action with for Muslim, etc. So we have tried to address it in
Hilal
order to
Saab,
sensitize.
can I request
Yeah.
you please turn on the camera?
Yeah.
Okay,
Can you see me now?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
The people
So,
connect better who are on the video.
yeah. So both of these questions are actually very important and very crucial. What we have done in the report, we have prepared an action plan. And this action plan is primarily based on the recommendation which we have made in the report. Now, if you ask me that what has been the significance of this report, first of all, that for the first time in last 10 years, we have successfully tried to sensitize the public discussion on the question of Muslim backwardness. That was not happening. So in some sense, it is a question of, it is actually in that sense a political question. The second is that, policy recommendations and linking it directly to politics, in my view, is a very quick fix. So therefore, I think what we have tried to, and Sanjeev Bhai tried to offer a very comprehensive picture that what could be done. And we have also in the report tried to look at what Muslim think about, Muslim communities think about the question of affirmative action. So therefore, there is an action plan, and in this action plan, I'm just trying to repeat what Sanjeev Bhai and Nazima has already mentioned, that there is a need to engage with the state. And you have to engage with the state by using the vocabulary that is available to you. Most of the political commentators somehow actually ignore the point which Nazima made, that the vocabulary is not backwardness, rather aspiration. So I think the first important point is to revisit the question of how we are going to, the question of language. In what language we are going to make this point. So this is what we have tried to do. Now, coming back to what Sanjay Bhai said, that there are basically three things. One, that we strongly assert that all these options which are there and which actually do not pose any sort of a threat to existing framework that is presented to us by Government of India, I think can be doable. So if government is actually not trying to get into any discussion based on the based on its own vision of affirmative action, I think then the question would become in a way more directly political. But first of all, you have to articulate the question in a different language. So I think both Nazima and Sanjeev Bhai, they have already, provided some kind of a framework to reconceptualize the question of Muslim backwardness.
So, Dr. Hilal Ahmed Saab, so another question comes in a similar way. So, what is the realistic option in the current political reality? This is from Dr. The Ambassador Ishrat Aziz Saab.
Can I come in? Can I come in?
Yeah, please go ahead, both of you. So the realistic option, of course, the options are there.
So I think you are waiting for a more straightforward answer.
Yes. The public is.
Yeah. So whatever suggestions we have offered is not for today. All these suggestions are for future. We agree that under the current political environment, these measures will not be taken up, or even if they are being taken up, they will be taken up partially, because many of the measures we have suggested gel with their own policy paradigm. So I think that maybe today it is not possible to implement these measures, and I agree that there is close connection between the politics and policies. Unless there is political will, there cannot be policy measures for marginalized groups, because not only are they not be able to articulate their issues, but also the fact that there are no many politicians which would like to take up their issues in the halls of power. The other question is, what is the best path forward? So in my last remark, I said that it is, not one versus other. So the issues will be addressed the best when we take up, all the measures simultaneously. So it is very difficult to distinguish that this approach will be, more effective or more useful than other. We don't buy that. We, lay emphasis on the fact that all these measures could be taken up simultaneously and at the same time.
Thank you, Dr. Alam. Hold on.
Also
first.
make a comment on these two questions.
Yeah, please go ahead. Then I will
Hilal
invite.
have both very explicitly said that we should politics is an important aspect, but we should not reduce everything to politics, because Muslim marginalization is an issue even now after 75 years of independence. So it shows that we should not reduce everything to the last 10 years. This is one argument that I would like to make. Secondly, I am not saying that after 2014 everything has there are positive things that are happening. We all know what is happening. But what is important here is to understand the kind of policy discourse that has evolved. And as Hilal said, what we have tried to do is that we have tried to raise the question of Muslim marginalization, which was actually lost because of politics, because of the kind of environment that was happening, and because of so many other things. Now, what is one good positive thing that I can see, or we can see together as a team, is that earlier when the minority concentration, this idea of minority concentration, concentrated district was introduced, there was only 30% of the Muslim population which was covered. The Muslim concentrated pockets or districts which are covered. Now there is, with the aspirational districts as well, this combination has actually increased the number of districts which are now a part of the policy discourse. So now, according to that, around 60% of Muslim population or Muslim concentrated district or Muslim areas have been included, are there in the larger policy discourse. So if you go through the policy, the papers, the different chapters, you will see that how things are. I'm not saying that they are happening in a positive direction, but there are things that are changing as well. Now, in the current scenario where representation or reservation for Muslim has become such a hostile issue, and it has generated so much negativity, so we should actually also find ways where, without mentioning the Muslim identity or without making it an issue, how can we actually create spaces where Muslims can also be benefited without overemphasizing on the Muslim identity.
We got it. I wish that both Ishrat Aziz Saab and Tariq Farooqi agree with you, but I don't have a time to call them back. But let's Omer Faisab, I'm sorry that there are similar questions came up and then you were put on hold. So please go ahead, Omer Farisa.
Well, actually, my grandson has hijacked my iPad. I'm Hassan Rayas, not Omer Faris. Dr. Zanjeer Alam mentioned about the corporate sector, the private sector representation of Muslims, which is no more than the public sector, again, another 2, 3, 4%. Now, the the question of diversity is well accepted in boardrooms, but only notionally. The general refrain is that we recruit on merit. If Muslims come up to the mark, we select them. If they don't, we don't. Now, we do recognize that there's a competency deficit among minorities, Muslims largely, and other OBCs, etc., that they are not able to compete on equal terms with the forward castes. Now, there is a CSR allocation that is compulsory now, and part of the CSR allocation can be allocated to upskilling the marginalized groups to make them come up to that level of competency where they can be hired on merit. So my question really is, how can we influence the private sector to use some of the CSR funds to targeted programs to increase the competency levels of marginalized groups so that there can be better representation and therefore the benefit of diversity within the organization? That was my question.
Yeah. Sanjeev bhai, shall I, Sanjeev bhai?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. See, one of the recommendations which we made is precisely this, that CSR is an important component, but at the same time, everything should not be reduced entirely to CSR. What we have argued in the report is basically this, that there should be a meaningful engagement with the private players or the private sector. And one of the component of our action plan is to study affirmative action and its relationship with private sector in a very comprehensive manner. In fact, this is something which that would be the next comprehensive study which we are planning to do, which would be the second stage of this report. So we do agree with you, and in fact, this is one of the recommendations which we have made. Now, the reality of CSR is equally problematic. We have found that, again, the question of political is very crucial. And Ayaz Saab and others have already highlighted the fact that CSR funds are directed to, those NGOs and those sectors or organizations where, politically safe, those organizations which are actually politically safe. So therefore, as I said, and we have argued in the report that there is a need to have a systematic action plan to engage with the private sector.
But who's going to make the action plan?
Something?
Who's going to
Sanjeev
make
bhai.
the action?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we are yet to understand how CSR fund is being utilized. We have just indicated that this could be one of the areas where we can explore some possibilities for helping the Muslim community. So we don't have right now. We don't have any definitive answer to that.
Okay, thank you. We are short of time, so let's invite Neeraj Kumar sir.
Sir, may I ask? I just wanted to ask a question. Is there not an inherent contradiction between what the three speakers have said? Dr. Parveen said the private sector has been the cause of misery for people working in unorganized sector, and now Dr. Sanjeev Alam says we should engage with the private sector to improve the position, financial or educational status of the minorities. When on one hand you say that is the root cause for your misery, how can the same source be the benefactor of those who are affected?
Yeah. Nazima, would you like to answer this?
No, I just would like to clarify that I did not make any comment about about the connection between private sector and the misery of Muslims. I was just trying to explain that how private sector has become a bigger player and how the government is actually saying that the private sector is the income generator, growth generator, and employment generator, and that the government is saying that it's the private sector that should actually take the initiative, and the government's responsibility here is only to provide infrastructure, use public money basically to support the private sector to grow so that they can create employment opportunities, and at the same time on the welfare ground as well, on the level of on the side of welfare as well, the government is saying that we need to engage with the private sector. The public-private partnership is something that the government is talking about. So these are the government's own initiative or government's own philosophy that has evolved in the last 10 years. So this is I just wanted to clarify.
Exactly. That is what I am saying. Then why don't Muslim community come forward and join the private sector as private entrepreneurs? You see, you only
Sir,
said
we are
Sabka
talking
Saath.
about, Neeraj Saab, we are talking about 20 crores of people. And as Sanjeev Bhai said, that, obviously we do not have, we collected data, we analyze it, and we can, as academic, provide some kind of a direction that what could be the best possible way forward. We are not here to, we are not representative of Muslim community to say what should they do. The idea is that it is actually a very comprehensive, it is a very comprehensive report which provide a framework in which we all can think slowly and gradually to make move towards some more effective engagement with different players.
Sir, what you are
Well
saying
said.
are my
Well
words
said.
only.
Neeraj
Sir,
Saab, he said very well. Yes.
Okay,
Let's move on.
I think
I fully agree with him. My
Good.
point is when we are talking about CSR funds, so Muslim NGO should be created and they should go to the private
Yes,
corporates
sir.
and
Thank you.
seek funds.
Thank you very much, because I think this is exactly one of the findings. This is one
Yes,
of the recommendation, and I strongly,
Yeah.
request all the friends here to please download the report. You get every answer, which in fact, Nirsa, I'm really grateful to you. You mentioned about Muslim NGOs, and in fact, that's another project which we are working on at the moment, and it is there in the report.
okay, great.
And this is one of the recommendations.
Thank you. So then, okay, we had already a 1 o'clock. A quick question. So this report was submitted to any political entity?
We have submitted this report to Niti Aayog. We have submitted this report to different political parties, including Congress and BJP. We have given this report at the state level. The report has been translated into various Indian languages. And in fact, the Hindi launch of the report is going to be scheduled in Patna in next month. So the report is widely circulated. And,
Okay.
I again said that please, I would again argue that please download the report and read it, and also watch the videos, which we have prepared with great efforts.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all your effort. This is a great job. This is the beginning, although the beginning has been a long time back, but it's a continuation. Thank you so much. Back to Dr. Raziuddin. That concludes the question and answer session. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, Rafat. Thank you very much. And thank you all the three participants. And Hilal Saab, I wish कि हम लोग और question answer करते. And there is not really much to ask because we are already late. I also wish that the community, our Indian Muslim community, should really take some lead, knowing the very fact that it, irrespective of whether it is a Congress government, a secular government, or now a sectarian government or BJP, in all these cases, the Muslim situation remained the same. So the community should really come forward, at least on some smaller scale, to take up projects and address certain issues which we are totally failed so far. So that is also a very connected issue. So thank you very much. I'm sorry संजीव साहब, आपको हमने बीच में नहीं रोका, बल्कि लंबा हो गया था तो हमने सोचा क्वेश्चन आंसर में
वो
टाइम आपको
आखिरी
नहीं
था,
देने
कोई
को।
बात नहीं।
तो देखिए कितने क्वेश्चन और रह जाते, तो हम लोग कभी फिर जो है पार्ट 2 कर लेंगे। डोंट वरी अबाउट इट, इट वाज वंडरफुल, इट वाज वेरी इंफॉर्मेटिव। आप लोगों ने बड़ी मेहनत की है। एंड नीरज साहब, आपको थोड़ी हम काट सकते हैं, आपको काटना बड़ा मुश्किल काम है। हमने ये कहा कि टाइम नहीं है ना, इसलिए जरा मुश्किल हो
जी,
जाता
बट सर
है।
अभी
आपका
आपको
हमारा
सिर्फ
तो
ईद
दिल का
मुबारक
मामला है ना,
कहेंगे
कहाँ से जाएंगे जी।
सर। हम बस मैं आपको ईद मुबारक कहना चाहता हूँ, उसके लिए तो आप
अरे
समय
तो आ जाइए ना ट्रम्प लैंड में, ट्रम्प लैंड में आ जाइए, ट्रम्प लैंड में आ
सर
जाइए यहीं पे।
So
Okay,
thank you once
all.
again, all three speakers and the audience
Thank
who
you.
participated.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
thank you. Have a nice day
Come-
or evening in the.
एक कमेंट हमको पर्सनल करना जो बड़ा हमको अट्रैक्ट करता है। हमको अकेले मिले 250-300 स्पीकर्स में, और इतने अच्छी तरह से कुर्ता पजामा पहन करके और जबरदस्त कैजुअल तरीके से बैठ के हिलाल जो टॉक देते हैं, तबीयत तो एकदम लग जाती है। सही बता, बेहतरीन है, कोई और स्पीकर को हमने देखा नहीं। बट कीप इट अप, कीप इट अप। वो कुर्ता
Thank you.
पजामे में रहना चाहिए, जबरदस्त। थैंक यू ऑल वेरी मच, और फिर
Thank
मिलेंगे।
you.
ऑल राइट, थैंक यू नाजमा, थैंक यू
Thank
संजीव
you,
साहब।
everyone.
ईद मुबारक आप सबको।
ईद
Thank
आप
मुबारक।
सब लोग
सबको ईद मुबारक, सबको ईद मुबारक।
Thank you, Neeraj sir. Okay.
नीरज साहब आ जाइए, नीरज साहब आ जाइए। अच्छा भाई, थैंक यू।
Leaving
मेरे
now.
नाम की कुर्बानी यहाँ होती है, मैं कैसे आ जाऊं? ये एक बहुत दिलचस्प किस्सा है, कभी आपको बताएंगे। मेरे
अच्छा।
नाम की कुर्बानी यहाँ होती है।
वो
तो
आपको 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 कोई काटता है कि आपके नाम का काटता है?
नहीं
दोनों में
सर,
फर्क है।
आप नहीं सर, आपको बताएं, वो एक हमारे दोस्त हैं, एक वो उनके यहाँ से हमेशा कुर्बानी का एक रान मेरे यहाँ आता था। उन्होंने एक साल उसको चेंज किया,
जी जी जी।
बिकॉज आई वॉज देयर चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट। तो किसी वजह से थोड़ी मनमुटाव या अनबन हुई, तो वो मेरे यहाँ से अपनी फाइल लेके चले गए। तो जब उस दिन बकरीद हुई तो कुर्बानी हुई, तो जो चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट के नाम का रान था वो नए चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट के यहाँ गया। तो जब लेने देने वाला लेके वहां पहुंचा तो आदमी बोला, अरे अरे यहाँ तो प्याज लहसुन कोई नहीं खाता है, ये क्या ले आए हो? तो अब वो रान कहाँ जाए? तो आप विश्वास नहीं करेंगे, वो रान वापस घूम के मेरे पास आया। तो
देखिए
ये
देखिए,
स्थिति
कुर्बानी
है।
कुर्बानी
हर
का
साल
चक्कर जी।
कुर्बानी का जो मीट है सर, हर साल हमारे घर आता है, एंड वी
जी।
टेक इट एज प्रसाद,
Very good.
ऑफरिंग गॉड,
Very
and we
good.
accept it like that only, and we wait for the whole year
हाँ।
for Bakrid to come so that we can get that
अरे
ram.
उन्हीं के घर जाके खा लिया कीजिए, क्या फिर आपको जो है काटना पड़ेगा, सब करना पड़ेगा। ओके, चलिए
Okay.
ठीक है, थैंक यू,
Okay.
Okay.
थैंक
Night.
यू, थैंक यू, फिर मिलेंगे। थैंक यू।